Hope y'all are having a great weekend. Welcome to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. My name is Kaylee.
My name is Desi.
Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to turn on post notifications. Before we get into this case, we always encourage those who have useful information to any unsolved case, please report it to your local police and sheriff department.
Fortunately, thousands upon thousands of Black women go missing every year. However, many of these women who go missing do not gain as much attention as other cases. Sadly, many of these African American women go missing because of sex trafficking. We hope that these women get the justice they deserve. With that being said, today we will be discussing Toni Danielle Clark's disappearance.
Toni Danielle Clark was born June 4th, 1972 in California. Her mother is Gwen Clark, and she has a sister named Clarissa. She would be 50 years old today. She had black hair and brown eyes. She was African American. At the time of her disappearance, she was 17 years old, a senior in high school, and pregnant. It isn't exactly clear whether or not she was living in San Francisco or San Bruno, California. She only weighed about 110 pounds.
Toni was last seen wearing a black lace tube top with black shorts, a jean jacket, and 2 gold rings on her right hand. She had a mole on her left calf, a slight scar on her right knee, and a gap in the front of her teeth. Toni was 5'3", and she was a lively girl. She loved to dance, swim, and ran track for school. Toni was also 2 months pregnant.
Even though pregnancy is difficult, especially for teenagers, Toni was planning on keeping her baby. She was excited to be a mother. Toni also did not let the thought of being a young mother stop her from achieving her dreams. She wanted to compete in the Olympics. If that didn't work out, she wanted to be on TV.
Everybody talked about how bright and bubbly she was. Her cousin Renee states anytime they would go out, someone would notice Toni. March 16, 1990, Toni borrows her boyfriend's camaro to visit friends and family in Oakland, California. Little did they know this would be the last day her cousin Renee and best friend Najuma Bannister would see her.
It is noted that the area she was visiting was not in the greatest parts of Oakland. Before she headed back home, Renee did mention that it took Toni 3 tries to start her boyfriend's car. As she is leaving the house, her best friend Najuma tells Toni bye and to call her later. In many of the local reports, it does mention that at some point, Toni's car had stalled while crossing the San Francisco Bay Bridge.
Unfortunately, when the car stalled on the bridge, another car rear-ended the Camaro. A few minutes later, police arrived at the scene. The police noticed that Toni is not there, and witnesses state they do not recall seeing a woman. The driver of the other car states he did not witness a young woman in and around the car at the time of the wreck.
A couple witnesses do state that they did see an African American male under her car. However, none of the witnesses remember exactly what the man looked like. It is not mentioned if the witnesses saw the man before or after the wreck. Police found 2 items left in the car: the keys and her favorite gold chain bracelet left on the floor.
Gwen states that Toni would never take this bracelet off, and that it was odd it was left on the floor. Police at first believed that she was flung forward from her car and over the bridge when she was hit. Upon investigation, they discovered the front window was intact and there was no bloodstains in the car. They thought maybe she was standing in front of the car and was then pushed over the edge.
The U.S. Coast Guard did search the water. However, there was no body nor belongings found. Witnesses do not recall a woman being pushed into the water. California Highway Patrol states that due to the water's current, her body would have floated towards the Golden Gate Bridge. The Coast Guard looked in the water near the Golden Gate Bridge and found nothing.
The driver of the car that crashed into the Camaro was tried for vehicular manslaughter. Since there was no evidence that supported Toni's death that night, the charges were dropped. Toni's mother and her family did not believe Toni was pushed into the water that night. Toni's mother received a chilling phone call a week later. The chilling phone call was of a woman crying on the other end. Her mother was horrified and believed it was her daughter.
5 days after Toni's disappearance, her mother placed flyers up and around San Bruno, California. Maybe someone would speak up and tell her where or what happened to her daughter Toni. What was sad is that her mother would go back to these flyers' location and see that they were gone. Whoever did this was being very disrespectful.
In 1999, Wesley Sherman Tyne and Lauren Herzog both were arrested. Both of these sick men took innocent lives between 1985 and 1999. Sherman Tyne came forward to the police and told them everything, including where some of the bodies were left. Herzog committed suicide after Sherman Tyne came forward. Police discovered 6 dead women. One of these females was a young, pregnant African-American woman.
Unfortunately, there is limited information available online, so we do not know whether or not they did a DNA test on the young woman found. Sherman Tyne and Herzog could be involved in Toni's disappearance. They may have more victims that have not been disclosed. These two also could have no involvement at all, but it's odd their victims were in the same area Toni disappeared. The description of one of these women also closely matches Toni.
Toni's family feels like the police did not do a thorough enough investigation, and that they just labeled her case as she fell over the bridge and died, despite not having a body or belongings in the water. News and outlet media failed to give this case enough coverage. They just wanted justice for their daughter. To this day, we do not truly know what happened to Toni Danielle Clark. We hope the family gets justice for Toni. Here are some questions. Why was her bracelet on the floor if she never took it off? The only other thing found in the car was the keys. I feel like her bracelet was probably in the floorboard because if she was kidnapped or thrown over or something like that, the killer took her belongings off of her to make sure that nobody could identify her because, her mother knew exactly the bracelet that she wore, so could very easily identify her from just that. On top of evidence, like DNA as well, but I feel like that would have been a key factor to identifying her body. Possibly also if they left prints or DNA on the bracelet would trace back to whoever took her and did things to her.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd that her bracelet was left on the floor because Toni was known to not have ever taken this bracelet off, but there could be a number of different reasons why she took her bracelet off. There is a theory on Reddit that maybe she took the bracelet off because she was in trouble and she wanted to take it off to show that something bad happened to her, and she wanted to make sure that people would look for her because she needed hope. But there could be a number of different reasons why it was left on the floor. The Coast Guards looked for her body in the water. They did not find anything. Did she truly fall over the bridge? I feel like they would have probably found her body or her belongings if she truly fell over the bridge. Now, her body could have washed up even farther somewhere else, or could be in a location that is hidden from everyone. I definitely think that it is a little bit odd that the Coast Guards looked everywhere, and they even looked at the Golden Gate Bridge area as well because they thought that her body would have drifted over towards there, and they didn't find anything over there. So I do feel like we would have probably found, if she truly fell over the bridge, we would have found her body there. If we didn't find her body, would have also found like her shoes or something, maybe her cell phone or her purse, but that did not happen, so I don't necessarily think that she fell over the bridge.
I agree with you on that one. I feel like if she did fall or was thrown over the bridge, they would have found a body somewhere on the coast or by the Golden Gate Bridge, or they at least would have found her belongings for sure, which kind of makes me believe that she wasn't thrown or she didn't fall. Maybe she was kidnapped and either buried somewhere or thrown into like a river or somewhere that was far, far away from where the accident was. But it's a little weird, the whole circumstance of it all.
Yeah, it is. And she was also in kind of a more shady part of town. There's probably some crazy people there.
Oh, you never know, girl.
Yeah.
There's crazy people all over the place. Could someone had taken Toni's car after they killed her, and then it stalled, and so they fled the scene. No bloodstains were found in the car, and the front window was intact. If this was truly the case that somebody took her car after they killed her, and then it did stall and they left the scene, you think maybe you would find bloodstains or some sort of forensic evidence as to that? Because usually, in that case, the person, I don't think, would have enough time to clean up after themselves. So I feel like there would be some sort of evidence left behind somewhere on the car. Although, be it this killer could be a very smart killer and could have intentionally taken her car, not knowing that it would stall, but hoping that something would happen to where they could just leave it somewhere and then go about their day. But I feel like more likely is that her car probably stalled, and it stalled in a shady part of town, of course, and somebody saw it and decided to take advantage of her and kidnap her. I feel like that's kind of more likely than somebody taking her car after they killed her, but you can't rule it out for sure.
Yeah, I could see it going either way. Another theory I've also seen as well is that maybe whenever her car did stall, someone wanted to hijack and steal this car. That's another theory, which could have very well happened, and they could have obviously scared her away, and maybe she ran away from them or whatever. I do get what you're saying, how we would probably see bloodstains or some sort of fingerprints or forensic evidence if someone did take her car after it stalled. What could have also happened is after her car truly stalled, she could have left the bridge to go and get help from somewhere, and on her way to get help from somewhere, someone could have snatched her up right there and taken advantage of her. And so obviously that person wouldn't have known, oh, that's her car, and they probably wouldn't have touched it or whatever. So that's probably more likely what would have happened. I don't think it would be the smartest idea for a criminal to kill her, then take the car and book it with her body and then fled the scene, because how are you gonna get away on foot carrying another body? And it's not like you magically, if this car stalls and you have this body, that someone else is gonna appear and help you get away, like you're gonna have a getaway car. No. So I think that more likely it truly did stall. Someone took advantage of her from that standpoint. If she was taken, who could have kidnapped her and why? So if she was taken, honestly, anybody could have kidnapped her. There's a lot of missing pieces of evidence that we don't know. We don't know much about if any friends or anything she had knew somebody that was shady or anything. The only thing we really know is that she was in a shady area when her car stalled. And so, honestly, it could have been anybody, a rapist, serial killer, and they just took advantage because they saw, oh, well, her car stalled. Sex trafficking is very common in America still, and so they thought, okay, I'm going to take advantage of her. And a lot of people do mention that this area of town is very dangerous and it's not a place you want to be at night, so it was probably someone from that area. One Redditor states that their sister accidentally took a wrong turn and the cops pulled them over and told them to keep going and you need to get out of here. Do not stop at lights or signs unless there is traffic, because of how dangerous it is. They also had another friend who told them to arrive before dusk, and they had to hide their car behind locked gates, sneak her into the house because of her skin color. Basically, this side of town is not a very good side of town, so it is more likely somebody from this side of town just wanted to take advantage of her.
For sure. It's more likely it was definitely somebody she didn't know and just a total random stranger or an acquaintance that took her. Many witnesses noted a man looking underneath her car that night on the bridge. Who is this man? I feel like this man could have been the killer, or he could have been just some random homeless person walking by, looking underneath the car to see if he could scrap something or take the catalytic converter like people do, because they shady as hell sometimes and like to take car parts to sell them. But I feel like it was just some random person, be it killer or not, just some random person who decided to look under her car and then ran away once he seen all the people that, like the police and stuff, that were coming and being drawn to this car.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, this man could be involved or could not be involved. This man simply could have been someone, like you said, that wanted to steal like a catalytic converter or something. People make all sorts of money off of car parts. In this area, like I mentioned multiple times, that it was a shady area, so it was probably some dude that he saw this abandoned car and he was like, okay, I want to make money off this, so I'm going to see what kind of car parts I can take and how much money I'm going to get off of it. Then he obviously probably fled the scene. Possibly he could have been there right before the wreck, and then the wreck happens. He decided to run away, obviously, because after any sort of car wreck, the police are going to be there in a few minutes, so it would have been dumb to stay there. So he probably just was like, okay, this isn't worth it, and just ran away. But again, we still don't know exactly what time the witnesses saw the man, but I'm thinking that they probably saw him before, and then once the wreck happened, he probably fled the scene.
You darn tootin' right.
Toni's mother posted flyers throughout San Bruno. However, they got taken down. Why did these flyers get taken down? In the beginning, we talked about how Toni was a very inspirational woman and a lot of people loved her. And what comes with a lot of popularity is also a lot of haters as well. There's always going to be a hater out there. So I think could have been someone that did not like Toni. Maybe they had beef with her or whatever. They just wanted to take these flyers away because even though like it was fucked up, basically how this pregnant woman is only 17 years old and now she's missing and possibly dead and her mom can't find her. They're like, well, I don't care, I just don't like her, or I'm jealous of her, and so they wanted to take the flyers down. It could have also been people who didn't want to believe that foul play was involved in her death at all, and maybe didn't like her because of her race or something really stupid, or because she was pregnant, and in high school there's so many people that hate on pregnant teen moms. It's ridiculous. And so they could have also taken the flyers down. It could have also been her serial killer that is still running free, or if there's multiple people that were involved in her death, they could have taken the flyers down because obviously they don't want to be found out. Or it could have also been just some stupid teenagers that wanted do some stupid prank just for the hell of it. Whoever took them down, that was very wrong of them.
I feel like people did it just to be fucking petty because they saw all these fires and thought it would be funny to take them down as a joke. Haha, hilarious, let's take all these flyers down, they look ridiculous, whatever. But truly, I think people were just being petty. It's stupid. Like,
right, and I'm sure if it was their kid, they would not want that to happen.
Nah, but people are rude as fuck. They don't care about other people. They only care about them damn selves. Could Sherman Tyne or Herzog be involved somehow? While there was no confirmed DNA testing found on the young pregnant African-American woman found, both of these had multiple victims they did horrible things to around the same city that Toni disappeared from. I feel like definitely they could be involved somehow, even though there was no DNA testing to confirm anything. It's very possible, especially in the time frame and the area and the type of women that they went after. Anything is possible. Some serial killers have a type, some don't, but most serial killers do have one thing in common, and that's most of the time they don't let on how many people they've actually killed. They like to keep that to themselves for a little bit of like pride and enjoyment, which is very sick. In the head, definitely they could be involved, or it could still, be some random stranger that did this to her. Anything is possible in this case.
Yeah, I think that it is a possibility, because even though we don't have a whole lot of evidence, still the fact that the type of women they went after, the time frame and the area, and the description of one of these victims match very closely to Toni. They could have very well killed her. Also, like you did mention, that serial killers, they're not going to tell 100% of the truth. When someone comes forward to the police about any crime, they're not going to tell the full story. They'll tell bits and pieces, but they're not going to tell the full story. That'd be really dumb on their part if they went and told the whole story, because then they would get an even worse sentence. They just tell part of it. Yes, they still have a sentence, but it's not going to be as bad as it would have been if the police found out how many victims they truly had and exactly everything they did to all of them. I do believe that they really should have done DNA testing on some of these victims. Even if it ended up not being Toni, it would help so much in this case a lot. At least her mom would know, okay, these two men did it. However, even if that one woman, her DNA did not match up with Toni, doesn't mean that there isn't other bodies out there they could have killed and matched to Toni. Why is there barely any coverage on this case? So it does kind of suck, because there is not a whole lot of coverage on this case. Like, I only really found like one YouTube video and a couple Reddit articles, versus most of the other cases I do, I find article upon article and video upon video. I think the main reason why there's not a lot of coverage on this case is because truly the police did not do a thorough investigation. They thought they should just slap on, okay, the wreck is how she died. She got in this wreck and she got flung over into the bridge, even though there is no evidence of a body, no evidence of any belongings in the river, and the Coast Guard search put that label on it because they didn't want to waste any more time or funding on this. And it's very unfortunate. Another reason too is because unfortunately the cases that get the most coverage tend to be more of white, blonde hair, blue-eyed people. And unfortunately people of other races or ethnicities are not going to receive as equal coverage as normal white people.
I definitely agree on you with that, and we've seen it time and time again with some of these cases we've actually covered, that the fact that white people, and I'm not saying this to be racist or anything like that, so don't take it that way, but this is being real, this is being honest, but unfortunately media covers more of what happens to white people than it does to black people or any other races. That's been an ongoing issue for a very, very long time, not just in our country, but in multiple countries. Almost every country on this world has that problem. But I feel like definitely, what you were saying and all that stuff, white people, when they go missing or something happens to them, they get more coverage than any other person of color. Which is so sad.
It is so sad.
People of everybody deserves the same treatment.
Yo, we're all human.
We're all human. We are all cut from the same blood and skin. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
People are just crazy. A week later, her mother received a phone call of a woman crying. Could this have been Toni? It's very possible this could have been Toni. Her kidnapper/killer could have forced her to make an anonymous phone call to her mom with just her crying, or she could have possibly gotten a hold of a phone without somebody knowing, and she couldn't say anything. She could just cry, unfortunately. Or it could have even been a prank call, unfortunately.
Was there foul play involved? I do think that there is foul play involved, because clearly it does not look like she simply got in that wreck and fell over the bridge. The fact that we don't have like any answers or anything. I feel like if it was suicide or something else like that, we would have had a note or something, or they would have known like that she was mentally unstable or anything. But she was very happy despite being pregnant. She was excited for the future, and she never wanted to give up her dreams. I also think because she was African American and she's pregnant and a teenager, I do think that there is a high chance that it could have been sex trafficking, because a lot of Black women are actually sex trafficked. Crazy how many of them are. Definitely think it more points towards foul play, because I feel like we would have found her body by now, or found even like her cell phone or purse, but we did not find any of those. And the fact that she was in kind of a shady area makes me think that there was something more.
Yeah, I feel like if this was accidental from this car wreck, there would have been evidence of her going through the windshield or some sort of blood on or in the vehicle. Leads me to believe there is a high potential that foul play was definitely involved. Could she still be alive? I feel like it's a 50-50 chance that she could be alive or she could be dead. If she is alive, it would be under, assumingly, a different identity, different name and everything, and she would probably, at this point, either still be in captivity or she would be living amongst normal people with her kidnapper. But I also feel like it's more likely that she's unfortunately dead, especially if there was foul play involved and with them never finding her body. I feel like she was probably buried somewhere else or cast off somewhere else, gotten rid of somewhere else. I definitely feel like it's a 50-50 chance for either.
Yeah, I agree with the whole 50-50. There are occasionally cases where you do see that there are people who have been kidnapped, and you'll find out 20, 30 years later they're able to fortunately escape their kidnapper. But those instances are very rare. As each year passes by, it makes it more and more likely that they are dead instead of alive. And I feel like if she is dead, like you said, her body is probably buried somewhere very far away, somewhere off grid, where it may never be found. What do we think happened that night? So I think what happened that night is obviously, yes, her car is stolen, and I think that she went to go get help from somewhere because she was not in the greatest part of town. And so I think maybe she went to go get help. During that process, someone came across her and they took advantage of her. They kidnapped her and did horrible things, killed her and hid her body somewhere. It could be honestly anywhere. They got away with it. I still believe that there is a possibility that Shermantide and Herzog could be involved in her death. And they just didn't tell the police about their victims and where every victim is located. They didn't tell the complete truth.
I feel like both of those are very good possibilities for sure. I definitely think she went to go find help since her car stalled, and she just came across the wrong person at the wrong time, and they took advantage of her, and they took her and did whatever things to her, be it probably horrible stuff, and then they ended up dumping her body somewhere. Or she still might be in captive, although very, very unlikely, but there's still that small sliver of hope that she could be alive. But I definitely think there's some very weird circumstances around her disappearance and everything, especially on that night, and a lot of things don't seem to add up like they should.
It is a very odd case. And also the phone call that her mother received too is very, very odd.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. Remember to always keep your eyes open, because you never know when someone's creeping.